away from God after having come into the land of promise. The land of promise. And the promised land, Israel began to associate with and become amalgamated with people of the land. People who did not think like they thought. People who did not worship like they worshiped. People did not believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Moses as they did. Well, this text today is a tremendously beautiful text because after Israel abdicated her responsibility and resorted to the gods of the lands in which he dwelled, God got upset with Israel. Let me tell you something. Text, I know in the seminary they tell us that every sermon ought to have 3 points. There ought to be a what, a how, and a why. Let me tell you what God hates sin, number 1. That's the first point of the lesson. God literally hates sin. He hates sin, but he loves the sinner. You cannot go so low in sin that God will not rescue you. Come on now. I had an open forum here today and just let somebody testify. They could tell you how far they've come by the grace of God. Low down, dirty, no good rascal. But God. You know, if I learned nothing else from my law degree, here's one word I learned. It's called motion in limine. Help me say motion in limine. Now this is what it means, they tell. Motion in limine is this. Here you are before the federal court in Washington. And there is a prosecutor. And there's a defense attorney. The prosecutor is trying to do all he can to get you convicted. Y'all hear what I'm saying? He want to pull every trick he can to get you convicted. So when he comes up with your background, he want to go way back in your background and pull all the midnight rambling stuff. Y'all pull up all of the drug charges against you. Because he needs some evidence to get you convicted. Y'all with me today? But when he offers that, the defense attorney said, I object. When the defense attorney objects, the presiding judge, who is God Almighty, said, motion sustained. And when he says that, they can't bring nothing up against you. Well, you remember, mankind stood before the judgment bar of God. And our prosecutor was the devil himself. He was pulling up your baggage. But we had a defense attorney called Jesus. And when the prosecutor tried to bring up the garbage, the defense attorney said to him, object. And the old man God said, objection sustained. That means I'm guiltless. Aren't you glad that when you were just about to go down for the last time, your defense attorney, Jesus, said motion in limine. Oh my God. Well, God hates sin. He will not tolerate sin. He won't tolerate sin in the preacher, the deacon, the mother, the leader. He does not tolerate sin. He hates sin. Like he said, it's sin stinks in my nostril. Then, secondly, the text talks about God delivers. So not only does God kill you for sinning or treat you, he will always have present a plan of deliverance. You get what I'm saying? And so when he beats up on you for sinning, cause you to lose your home, your job, your children, your money, what have you, then he has some resuscitation. You follow what I'm saying? So Israel had walked away from God, and she had been invaded by a foreign army. The Babylonians came in 587 BC and overtook the nation of Israel and carried them to Babylon. For 70 years they were in slavery. But after the period was over, God utilized a pagan, non-Hebraic king called Cyrus the Great of Persia and liberated God's people from Babylon Empire, because Persia, Media and Persia had fought each other for 400 years. But they were a little small kingdom. By themselves, they couldn't win over anybody. But Media and Persia decided to get together. Y'all get what I'm saying now? If one little church in your neighborhood can't win the whole neighborhood, then both of you little churches ought to get together. It's like the fella says, you will not change the behavior of a grizzly bear with one 2x4. But I guarantee you, if you take that same 2x4 and put it on the same part of his behind at the same time, he might not change being a bear, but he will certainly change swamps. Yeah, he'll get out of the community. So God reached out the leaf, the olive branch, to give Israel, to get it straight, because Israel had lost not only her kingdom, Judea had been invaded and destroyed by the nation of Babylon. They had lost not only their nation, they had lost the temple that Solomon had built. 7 years of labor. Solomon had worked to build the temple on Mount Moriah in Jerusalem. And he worked 7 years, and God wouldn't allow a drop of rain to fall for that's during the day during those 7 years. He had a labor force of 80,000 entered apprentices. He had a labor force of 70,000 fellow craftsmen. He had a force of 33,000 master masons. And then he had 3 grandmasters. Solomon, the 3 grandmasters, represented wisdom, strength, and beauty. Solomon represented wisdom. Hiram of Syria represented strength. Hiram of Tyre represented beauty. But the temple, 90 feet long, 30 feet wide, 45 feet high. That temple had been destroyed by an invading army. The Holy of Holies had been destroyed. The altar of incense had been destroyed. And God, when Cyrus told Nehemiah to go back and build the wall, y'all have to excuse me, I don't have my notes today. When Cyrus was given the authority to go back to Jerusalem, he saw the walls had been torn down. And the gates are now burned with fire. It was a low down, dirty shame to see the city of Jerusalem, the holy city, in shambles. But Nehemiah restored the wall, but the temple was still destroyed. So God said through Zerubbabel, and I want you to go back to Jerusalem and rebuild that temple that Solomon built. You see, Solomon's temple was no shanty on the side of the road. It was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. What a beautiful sight. Babylon had its hanging gardens. Rome had its 7 hills. And Egypt had its pyramids. But Israel had its temple. That was the glory of grandeur of the ancient world. But it was now lying in rubbish. No sacrifices, no worship of God. God wanted the temple rebuilt. So Zerubbabel decided that they were going to rebuild the temple. But building involves carpenters, money, material, and land. But the Israel didn't have no standing army, no horses and chariots. But God said, well, you really don't need them for this job, because I'm going to do a new thing with this job. Previous jobs, you've done it by money, horses, and chariots. You've done it by wisdom, power, and influence. But I'm going to do something different now. So he showed Zerubbabel an olive branch with 3 bowls sitting on top of each branch. And then there was a stream of oil running from the olive branch down to the bowls. They all represented the wisdom and the power of God. The holiness of God was represented in the oil. God said, now you're going to build the temple. It's going to come back into existence again. But not by your might, not by power, nor by might, but by my spirit, said the Lord. Remember, said the Lord said, I'm going to do it. It's unusual. It's extraordinary. It's never been done before. But I am God. I'm the Omega Di. I am God. I created the world ex nihilo. That means out of nothing. I made man Omega Di. That means a living, breathing thing directly from God. And then God breathed into man's nostrils, Ruah, the breath of life, and man became a Nefesh Hayah. That means a living, breathing thing directly from God. The air you breathe is not your air. The air you inhale is not your air. It is the breath of God. God said, you're going to rebuild the temple. You're going to restore a place of worship. Where once again, the anointing of God will fill the house. And they said, Lord, let your anointing fill the house. One more time, let me feel your anointing. One more time, let me feel the power. One more time, let me see healing in God's church. How many of y'all want to see it again? Lord, I want to see the deaf here. I want to see the blind walking. Say yeah! Oh God! But let me tell you, Zerubbabel, not by power, not by might, but by my spirit, spirit of the living God. Give us that follow me, spirit of the living God. Heal me, mold me, make me all over again. Lord, I want to see the power fall one more time. I want to see the flame wall one more time. McNeedle. I want to see prostitutes pull off their evening gown and put on a choir roll. I want to see card players go down the deck of cards and pick up a Holy Bible. Say